No, I was saying that IGN poll that I talked to you about the other day. The reason why I was bringing it up to you was because the manipulation that they're saying that it's been so focused on recently, with a lot of the YouTubers talking about it and stuff like that, is they feel like the agenda's being pushed by IGN because all of a sudden Black Myth Wukong was at like 90% and it dropped down to like a 76%. Because it's like some kind of weird poll. I tried it myself, like for the winner. Like it's like weird. It's like a versus thing, and you pick which game you would pick as game of the year, or whatever. And
They did it
it was
on like a whole bunch of social media as well. It's like
mhm.
a community driven thing. Like
Yeah,
vote for
yeah,
this and vote for this, and then fight. And there's like little branches, trees.
correct. So uh Black Myth Wukong was the only game out of all the games that are on there to see such a significant drop in the percentage, because it was at 90%. It was like beating everybody by far. It wasn't even freaking close. Then suddenly it drops to 70 something percent. Actually, I think it was like lower than that. It was like 72, because I think the IGN article I sent you even talks about it, that they removed some of the as they quote unquote losses that it took, about 40,000, uh because they were basically called out on it, and they were like, "Oh, you got to understand, there's like basically like blaming it on bots and like fake accounts kind of deal, like trolls trying to lower the account." But 40,000? First off, if you thought 40,000 were trolls, that's interesting. Then to
And
bring it back up to that, only brought it back up to 76%. That didn't even bring it up to the 90 something percent it was at. So a lot of people called that out, because then at the time frame that they noticed the significant drop, everybody else had like a decimal point move up or down, maybe a full percent up or down, every other game, except Black Myth Wukong, which went from 90 to 70 something, was at 5 a.m. So everybody's like, how did this happen at this time frame, that there was this many people voting against this game at 5 a.m.?
oh,
They're like,
I have a theory on that actually,
yeah, yeah,
but now
go
continue.
ahead. No, but I was explaining that, and that's why I was like, I wanted to talk about it, because first off, IGN, and I know how you feel about this at this point, but it's true, and I'm going to mention it. They were one of the biggest supporters of the Ubisoft Star Wars Outlaw trash, the garbage. They even put this whole gameplay trailer that you could see was buggy as hell. They try to talk up the game. They try to chalk it up with their buddies. You know, they trying to help Ubisoft survive, which that's clearly not going to happen. they're in a demise. But it's clear that they're trying to push this agenda. They don't want Black Myth to win on their website. They don't want it. I'm not saying it's game of the year for everybody, but IGN clearly doesn't want Black Myth to win, because they were one of the ones that wrote against it too on their trailer or their game review, pointing out the lack of DEI, diversity, and just, you know, trying to hurt the game, I guess, in a sense. So it's just even more blatant and obvious, and kind of like, you and I have spoke about this with gaming journalism, and how, I guess you could say, in a way, it's just taking a really downward turn with all politics being added into it, and it's no longer about just talking about games and if it's good or not. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Uh, and my question is, uh, for 5 a.m. is that Eastern Standard Time?
Oh, I'm not sure if it was Eastern, Pacific time. I just know it was 5 a.m. But even then, like I try to say, okay, think to myself, what about if it's even outside of the country? I don't know what side of the world would be at that time, but to think that that many people voted from that time frame, around that
Oh,
time frame,
I have
to
a
drop it
large
that
theory.
much.
I have a
Well,
large
that's
theory. Uh,
enlighten me, because I know
so
you're the one that would know how they would
now this is
possibly do that.
not a definitive answer. This is not me going, it's definitely this. This is just a
Okay.
theory I have. All
Hmm.
right. And this sparks over what kind of game Black Myth Wukong is,
Hmm.
and more importantly, where it's developed.
Okay.
Black Myth Wukong is developed by a Chinese video game company. This is an upstart company.
Hmm.
Uh, and it is making a game talking about just like mythology and things like that.
Yeah.
We've talked about it during the video about it. But China, or the CCP, very strict about a whole lot of things. Okay, they're very strict about internet. They're like very controlling of their internet, all their exports and everything like that. This includes Western internet videos, YouTubes, and everything like that. It is confirmed that China deploys bots in order to sabotage or bury anything with negative connotation towards the Chinese regime or any Chinese products. Now,
Okay.
let's just
You think
say
that's what created the influx?
China itself has a problem with Black Myth Wukong. We don't know what if it does have problems. We don't know if it endorses it, but I did not see anywhere that says that China endorsed it. And it is something about Chinese mythology. So I don't know if China, or specifically IGN, could have said something that in any regards that China might have thought of negatively. This is also could be something that the bots picked up and it was a false positive and ended up spamming negativity anyway. Because that's what the bots do. This is like, it is confirmed that China does deploy automated bots to go through any high stream medias or mainstream medias, like YouTube is a good example, and any negative views the bots will dislike in order to either enforce or like encourage algorithms to push down that video or desensitize people from watching it. Now, 5 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time is 5 p.m. in China.
Hold on, I'll tell you right now.
It is 12 hours. I know. That's why I asked what 5 a.m. and what time, because it's 12 hours from Eastern. It is, I believe, 14 hours from.
Tell me what if it's Eastern on this picture on IGN. 'Cause I'm looking at the article they posted. I didn't look at the.
Yeah.
I'd have to find the YouTube video, some of the YouTubers that talked about it, honestly, to see.
Yeah. So, but like from Eastern Standard Time, there's a 12-hour difference between CST China Standard Time and the eastern side of North America, with inclusion like a little bit of like here or there, depending on if it was Central Standard Time for what they were referring to, or Pacific Time, which is all the way in California. I believe there's one more time zone, but I am a dumbass. Now,
Well, before you finish,
yeah,
just to give you insight, so maybe this might adjust what you say a little bit. This is what they initially said when they first posted the thing. The fact that Black Myth's vote totals so quickly surpassed that of games that had been accruing votes for months before it was added to the list of games strongly suggests that someone exploited the system to allow to vote only
multiple
on one
times.
specific game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only vote on one specific game.
Yeah.
So they're trying to say somebody hacked their system. So they're trying to say somebody was trying to fraudulently boost the game up.
Which could also be China, but it also could be like malicious actors, like hackers, or I don't even go to hackers, like people who make or design or just like smart tech people. Like I can make a bot that will do that. Like IGN is probably not a sophisticated website. They probably don't have a sophisticated backend. They're probably not scrubbing or doing like. If I open up IGN right now, okay, there's one thing I can tell. When I open up IGN, they do not have anti-DDoS. They probably don't have anti-scrubbings. They don't have a robot text page. They don't have any redirects.
No, don't exploit them.
I'm pointing out all their vulnerabilities, man. If someone who was a tech genius is watching this video and did not know that, probably. They already knew. That's why I'm saying. I was like, it's like I'm looking through their source code right now as I speak. I see a whole bunch of iframes. I see a whole bunch of scripts.
But here's my argument to that though. Like, say if somebody was boosting it, right? Why did you only remove the 46,000 losses? It makes me feel like
Is it
You knew they were
46,000
winning.
losses from from
Reading it right
Wukong
now.
or games, other games?
Yeah, no. So it says, Black Myth's Wukong community and our
Say one more
to be
time. Your mic didn't pick up when you looked away.
it says Black Myth Wukong community and our engineers have identified as the most likely to be fraudulent, during which the win percentage fell at what should have been an impossible rate. A total of 46,000 losses as of this writing. That change moves Black Myth Wukong back to number 1 with a 76% win rate. So really, it lost way more than 46,000 times to bring it down from 90,000 to 76%. But remember, they removed 46,000 losses, which brought it back up to 76%. It actually dropped to, I think, like 70 or 72. They don't say it in this article, but some of the YouTubers said it. So if they felt it was that boosted, but you removed the losses, you didn't remove the wins. You removed losses, which tells me you fraudulently adjusted it. Well, that gives me the perception that you did.
Yeah, and it could also be because I don't know. Like the wording on the removed losses means that it was artificial losses, or that it was losses against. But even if it was losses against people, it's technically wins for Black Myth Wukong, which would boost their ratings. Or if they overall removed, like, didn't remove losses towards Black Myth Wukong, but they're just no longer counting any, 46,000 things that Black Myth Wukong won. They're no longer counting 46,000 wins, like losses against other people. But I don't. The way it's worded, from what I understand your perspective in it, because why would you?
This is where everybody's calling them out.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, if you really didn't do it, why do you feel you need to respond? And then you gotta explain yourself.
Well, they're definitely gonna have to respond because people were calling them out, so they had to respond. Now the question is, was that response poorly worded? Absolutely, that shit was poorly worded. From what you're telling me, it's poorly worded.
I sent you the link. The link is there. You can see it. But bro, I'm thinking to myself, realistically, all right, bro, let's be honest. The game has sold 20 million copies in its first month. That's astronomical. It's the best-selling Chinese video game ever already.
I would like it to be known that is not a very high bar.
No, I know
that. There's four other games that have really sold well from China.
But do you know what Ubisoft would kill for to have one of their games sell 20 million right now?
Look, Ubisoft would kill to get an indie company's version of goddamn games sold, all right? We've been putting down Ubisoft for a week. They deserve it, but we're kind of kicking a dead horse at this point.
Well, they just announced that Star Wars Outlaws sold 1 million. So I look at Black Myth Wukong's first month and Ubisoft's Outlaws, and I'm like, God, that's brutal. So for me though, looking at that sales count, it's not hard to believe that it was winning 90%. It's not hard to believe.
I mean, I don't agree with 90%. Maybe 85%. The thing is that other sources besides IGN is. We'll take IGN with an asterisk, whatever.
Yeah.
Other sources also don't have it that high. A good example is Polygon.
I'm not saying everybody has it as game.
No, but the factors that Black Myth Wukong has going against it is the political controversy, but also the fact that the game doesn't have, because of its Chinese origin, is not accessible to a large majority of people. So. It is, whether or not it'll be game of the year, probably I can't say for certain if it won't, but I can see it not being as favorable as 90% only because of those limitations. Now,
this is what I ask you. Go ahead.
I was going to say the competitors towards Black Myth Wukong also make me feel like it can't be 90%. Like I don't know if I sent you the article. I think I did send you the article of what Polygon said. But the other contestants for or
Oh
the
yeah, I
forerunners.
see Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but even that I take with a grain of salt because I've heard a lot of fans, diehard fans, talk negatively about that game.
Yes, the diehard fans hate the story.
Well, this is what I get into with you. This is really why I wanted to get into this because we've talked about gaming journalism. How much do you feel right now this is influenced by protecting relationships with some of these game developers and companies rather than giving honest, true opinions to the gamers? Like this is the truth. Like this is what we really think about these games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's in that in order to describe or get my point or at least my opinion across, let me go out and say what the forerunners are. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth we already brought up. There's Astro Boy, which is the Sony
Bot boy.
or excuse me, Astro Bot. Astro Boy is an anime. Astro Bot, which is a Sony like children's game, I guess.
It's like a wannabe Mario.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Mario and Kirby combined together. It's a weird thing. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which I disagree with. Let me actually also put up that these are from Polygon, is what the forerunners are.
No, yeah, I'm looking at the webpage too right now.
Yeah. For
I don't even
also
know
the gamers out there.
Fourth one. I don't even know this one.
Animal Well, highly received indie game. But
Did
it
sell
is
20 million copies.
It is an indie game. Yes.
And did it sell
Hades
20
also
million?
did 20 million.
Okay. But Hades is not even top 5.
But Hades is not in here.
Hades 2?
Hades 2 hasn't come out yet. It's still in beta.
I thought that was an early release.
No, it's a beta.
Oh, my bad.
And early access is different from early release.
Oh, yeah, but you know.
Early access is equivalent of like, do you want to play our game before it's finished? And I'm like,
No, I got you. I thought it was out. I thought Hades. Oh, you sure?
no, it's all the way at the bottom at.
It's out. Hades 2, May 6, 2024. Initial release date. It's already out.
I'm looking at it right
Oh no,
here
no.
as an early access.
Yeah, you're right. My bad.
Yeah, it's not out. It's available to play, but it's not finished.
Yeah, it's May of next year. It's
Yeah.
2025. So
It hasn't received its 1.0 release.
All right. Out of those 4 games in front of Black Myth,
Black Myth and Like a Dragon. There's a Like a Dragon. Yes, the 6th one. Which is basically have you ever played Mafia or Yakuza?
That's Yakuza. Yeah, that's basically I know.
Hmm?
Yep.
I like Yakuza, but I only got to play one of those games.
Yeah, that was a while back.
Yeah, so like the Dark Horses, I mean, majority of the Dark Horses that Polygon has put out, I only have a good feeling for like the indie games like Baladro, which was highly well received. The only problem is it's a fucking indie game. Helldivers 2 had that huge backlash with Sony and went for the agreement and everything like that. Dragon's Dogma 2 was divisive on its system driven rather than story driven kind of gameplay. And then there's like, as you mentioned, Hades 2 is not officially out. It's potential, but it's not out. That's why those games that win, they're technically not even out yet.
I was gonna also ask you, when's the cutoff date that you can qualify for Game of the Year? Because like with Black Ops coming out,
October, I think.
I think it's the last month. So would
either October or September? Huh?
Would it qualify?
Black Ops
in time? Because it's like the end of like
it might be September then. It might be this month or last month. Excuse me, for the qualification.
So?
I remember it's either September or October. I think it's September. It's the end of Q3.
Okay.
Which is September. Yes, I had to do math. Because it's December, November, October don't count, which is a quarter of the year. Yes.
So then, go ahead with your point about the first.
So as you can see, all of these games that are Polygon, specifically Polygon, has put out, all of them have been well received. The detriment against majority of them is, besides Legend of Zelda, which has officially came out like last week, which I haven't looked into the scores for that, but we'll go in there. All of them were high sellers when they first came out. Besides Final Fantasy VII, like Rebirth, like the drama that came out of Rebirth was later after people finished the game. When it first came out, sold very well, and yes, the sales were slightly underwhelming, but that was according to the publisher of Square Enix. Like, the actual sales were phenomenal. It's just Square Enix was like, that wasn't what we expected. I was like, motherfucker, you sold like 40 million copies.
For which one?
I was exaggerating. I don't actually remember how much Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sold.
Well, I think that was also combining Dawn Trail, what they were expecting for both combined kind of deal, or 16. I think 16.
Yeah, it was 16 and
Rebirth.
Yeah,
16 Rebirth.
That they were like, we expected at least, like, I was like 200 million or 200 something. I think it was 200 million. I don't know.
A dollar amount. Yeah, I heard something.
But I was like, Dad, that's stupid high that you expected that much money. You expected almost $250 million.
It's the 4th best-selling game so far this year, Rebirth.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, when people say that, and like, this is something to take into account for everything, and this is probably the last point I'm going to make. When people say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't sell well, that is just from the perspective of Square Enix. Square Enix said it didn't sell well. Not like the rest of the world. If you just looked at Final Fantasy VII's sales, it fucking rocked. It like did well. It's just Square Enix themselves were like, it didn't sell well, and everyone just went with it. I'm just like,
well, I'm reading that back in April, it only sold at that time. 2 million copies on the PS5.
That makes sense because of the PS5 being,
exclusive too.
Yeah,
wasn't it exclusive?
It was exclusive.
So that's why it was underwhelming, because I don't think they released PC yet. Rebirth.
No, it's planned, I believe, next year.
And then they also stated that
I might be wrong, but
it actually sold worse than 16. That 2 million was actually less than 16 sales. So I think that's where the failure came from.
I mean, the failure was also they released both of them really close together, but that's neither here or there.
I don't know where it's up to now, though, because if it's the 4th best-selling game from that was a more recent thing I read.
All right, so here's my thoughts. Okay.
That was IGN.
Just to get back to the IGN one. All right. IGN, not clearly out the woods. I'm not going to defend IGN, but I said there's a possibility that bots may be the case, but the way they worded their rebuttal / statement about the matter, poorly worded if that's what they actually meant. If that's not what they actually meant, they're also bad liars. One of the two. Now I can see China doing this again. This isn't like exclusive. Like I'm probably wrong about it. I'm just saying China does have confirmed bots that scrub through the internet, look for negative China things. It doesn't even need to be like something derogatory. It can just be negative fluctuations.
But that would be negative. They had a fucking 90%.
Well, we don't know if this is a Chinese propaganda against Black Myth Wukong. Because we don't know. We don't know because China will like if they think
we would know
something
about it by now.
No, we wouldn't. That's the problem because China doesn't say shit.
Oh.
That's. I mean, I could also be wrong. I'm not saying it is. I just said I can see a possibility of Chinese bots being that way. Now, does this even if the Chinese bots were the like actual thing, or if some troll, like some like American trolls, is like, I hate Black Myth Wukong, I'm gonna bot the shit out of it, right? Even if they did that, it's still the responsibility of IGN to prevent that thing from happening in the first place. So,
well, yeah.
regardless, it's IGN's fault.
But they mentioned the fact that there was this influx that they try to first blame the influx as being something that was irregular, unnormal, and then the drop. But they only corrected the drop. They didn't try to correct the influx. They did try to fix the influx by manipulating it. And I stick by that because of how you said they worded it. They just look guilty no matter how they say it. Because even in bold print, bro, it says no one at IGN tampered with the results of this face-off. Why do you feel like you got to put that in bold?
Because they want to make their statement. It's just a political thing. I mean, even if they didn't put it in bold, it wouldn't say anything. So,
no, but yeah, I was just like, gaming journalism right now. I feel like it's such.
I mean, wait, that doesn't make any sense that they said that though in bold. It's like we didn't do to tamper, but you just said you removed 46,000 losses, so obviously you just tampered it. You're fucking contradictory. Now, yeah, like. Yeah. I want to end this conversation because, like, either way, IGN is doing weird things with their polls, whatever.
Well,
it's not really influencing. By the way, I don't think it's influencing Game of the Year because it feels like an internal poll that they're doing with like the IGN people. So like, it's not something that is going to influence like what actually is the Game of the Year.
Oh no, I don't think so.
No. Which is what I've perceived when you wrote it on.
No, I
Discord.
just meant for their website, their magazine, the game they're trying to choose or promote as Game of the Year.
Yeah,
they don't want it to be Black Myth Wukong because they kind of wrote against it. They didn't give it a terrible review. They didn't get a scathing review per se, but they were in their feelings about some of the DEI. They were clearly in their feelings about it.
Yeah, and whatever, like. If they want to include that as the criteria for what their games are and have to manipulate the polls, they're dumb and it's a ridiculous thing. But if they don't manipulate the polls, but they gave it a bad review anyway, it's stupid anyway. But like, regardless of how we see it, IGN is in fact just dumb with how they're handling this. So whatever.
Yeah. But that's what I feel like the gaming journalism is. It's not just them. Because
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about journalism a later day. I want to end this little snippet with a question to you. I think everyone has. What do you think Black Myth Wukong is Game of the Year? If not, what?
Tell you because I didn't play it, so I can't pick it.
Yeah,
I can't pick it.
What do you think? And we're excluding like the front runners that Polygon put up. Just any game you think should deserve Game of the Year.
I feel like Space Marine 2 is a good contender, to be honest.
That is technically qualified. Just needs to be nominated. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think it will be because, like you said, it promotes a lot of toxic masculinity.
I said that like. It doesn't promote toxic masculinity. It's just the target audience is not toxic masculinity. It's a different kind of thing.
It promotes masculinity, though. It's not. It's not like It's not catering to anything other than being a man and killing stuff and being barbaric.
Yeah, I don't want the audience to think that I'm against masculinity. Like, I think Space Marine 2 is a fine game, and if you want to get it, you get it. Okay. And I probably will pick it up, but mostly because the multiplayer interests me. That's probably it. But like, games can be designed to be masculine. I don't care. Gears of War was designed the same way. Like, it could be Bulletstorm, like I would say derivative, but like it was garbage. But like,
it was not
games can be designed for masculine or feminism or anything like that, and that's completely fine. I have nothing against it. If that's what your target is, that's what your target is.
Yeah, but I just feel like, well, not me per se only, but I think a lot of people feel like there's been this agenda to demote that. Like, it's not like okay to be masculine in a sense. You know what I mean? Well, I think it's also because you said like the toxic masculinity culture. That
It's a toxicity thing, really. Like, it's okay, in my opinion. Okay, it's okay to be masculine. It's not okay to be toxic about it. And like, toxic masculinity is this idea that every man needs to be masculine and can't never not be masculine. Otherwise, that shows weakness. That's the toxic part of it, which needs to be redefined. That's all. Regardless of, I'm trying to think of what mine would be, and I can't give you an answer. So
actually, bro, the Polygon, if you scroll down, it shows like upcoming and dark horses. It's showing Call of Duty and some games that haven't come out yet, so I think October might qualify.
Okay.
And honestly, if that qualifies, just from playing beta, if that game excels, and I feel like it is going to excel more than the experience that I had on the beta, that's my game of the year. Because it's like a comeback for Call of Duty. I'm guarantee you that.
All right. Well, that's it from us and Gio's last thing. Let us know what you think you should be game of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Peace.
Later.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Part-Time Gamers podcast. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And follow us on our other social platforms on TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. Links for those will be provided in the description. Thank you again. We will see you on the next episode of the podcast. And make sure you make some time for video games. Peace.